Hi, it's Jeff Murrow. I want to welcome you to True Texas History, and today I'm going to be talking about pirates and the Republic of Campeche. You probably haven't heard of the Republic of Campeche, so you'll learn something new today. How's that? Um, typically when you talk about pirates in Texas, the first one that people think of is Jean Lafitte. Uh, Now, there were other pirates. There was John Lafitte, there was Louis Michael Aury, there was Xavier Mina, and Henry Perry. I mentioned Henry Perry the other day. Um, these were the first well-known pirates to be situated in Texas. Now, um, the thing is, and technically, the filibusters were pirates because that was just another word for pirate. I guess you could call them land pirates. At least that's how the government considered them. And like all pirates, if you get caught, they kill you, they hang you. Um, but probably, the first ones of note, Louis Michael Aury and John Lafitte were the two major figures that showed up in Texas, and they showed up right around the time of the close of the Napoleonic War, and they both had a French background. There's always been speculation that those two were part of Napoleon's army and were trained there. Uh, and there's some good evidence of that. When you think about it, where else would people get sword fighting skills other than like the French military? Because these guys showed up and they knew full well how to use swords and how to use them very well. A lot of times you don't stop and think about it, but pirates and the use of swords, uh, your common man typically didn't know how to use a sword, and some of these, like Jean Lafitte, they were expert at knowing how to use the sword and various fencing techniques, which suggests that they did have some military background. Now these guys showed up, Mina and Are, and Lafitte set up his operation there in Louisiana, and of course there were three Lafitte brothers. You don't hear about that very often. There was Jacques, Pierre, and Jean. So, sometimes you hear mention of two, but there were actually three brothers, and they set up their operation that they used to conduct pirating. Now I'm going to leave off the Louisiana piece right now. Um, Except for the fact, that Jean Lafitte provided much of the gunpowder and a lot of the expertise that the U.S. Army needed in the Battle of New Orleans. Um, part of the reason that he wanted Lafitte's help was to make sure that Lafitte wasn't a threat to him, number one, but number two, he had the supplies. I mean, the Americans didn't have all the supplies they needed. They didn't have the know-how, and if it wasn't for the French pirates, the Battle of New Orleans might have turned out very different. I know that's something that you don't want to hear. And it's not just the French pirates. The other group that were experienced people that were there were the survivors of the Gutierrez-McGee expedition. Together, they were a formidable force. You're dealing with people that they were experienced fighting, and they were looking forward to an opportunity to fight the British. Now, Jean Lafitte tried to endear himself to the U.S. government after that. Even went so far as to conduct a mapping expedition of Arkansas Post up in Arkansas. But that didn't do any good, and Governor Claiborne insisted that he be kicked out of Louisiana. So he did. And he comes on over here to Texas. And it just so happens when he shows up in Galveston that the pirate who had originally set up there, Louis Michael Aury, was out pirating. And so Jean Lafitte set up and took over the pirate headquarters. Isn't that just like a pirate, that while one pirate's out of port, the other one comes in and takes over the whole operation? Uh, so anyway, Ari gets back, and the two of them decide to go ahead and team up. And things were real interesting back in those days. And one of the things that they did, they went ahead and played the political game, and they decided to declare the Republic of Campeche. Uh, and, under the auspices of the Republic of Campeche, they had letters of marque which gave them permission to prey on Spanish ships. Uh, that was short-lived, and then they turned around and proclaimed the Republic of Mexico. Now here is a trivia question. What city was the first capital of the Republic of Mexico? Give you 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3. Galveston. Galveston was the first capital of Mexico, the Republic of Mexico. And I bet they don't teach you that in Mexican history. But at the time that they declared Galveston Island, of course, that was all of Mexico at that point, Galveston Island. They did it mainly as a ploy so that they would have an excuse to go and prey on Spanish ships. It just so happened, about that time, other people got this idea, hey, we can join along there. And so you had, Father Hidalgo down there with his proclamation and several others. And that started a lot of the Mexican Revolution. Who ever heard that, some of this Mexican Revolution where Mexico got its independence actually started with a bunch of pirates down there in Galveston. A lot of things have started in Texas, not just that Republic of Mexico, but I know later on when there were some overthrows of the Mexican government, they were plotted and planned there in San Antonio, one of the restaurants. Just a lot of times things that are planned in Texas take place in other places. But the Republic of Campeche / Republic of Mexico was a very lucrative business, and it allowed the pirates access to the Spanish ships. They preyed the whole Gulf of Mexico. Now, one of the beautiful things about Texas, we have all those sandbars off of our coast. So the pirate vessels, because they had a much more shallow draft, were able to get in there and hide from some of the ships that could give them trouble. And so they had a wonderful operation going on. Now, I mentioned Henry Perry. He was in there with the pirates, and keep in mind that Henry Perry later on was involved in some of the revolutionary, and one of the people that worked with him was the fellow I talked about the other day, yesterday, Adrian Woll. So Adrian Woll got his start with some of the pirates there. He hung out with pirates there in Texas. Now, Adrian Woll, he was a Belgian who fought for Mexico, and there's some speculation that he also was a former Napoleonic. Now, another thing about these pirates, there was a scheme at one point where Jean Lafitte and some of his crew took off on an expedition to pick up the boss, as they called him, down out there in the Atlantic. There was a plot for them to bring Napoleon back to America. Well, not back to America, pick him up from St. Helena and bring him to America. Now, I haven't done all the research, but there's some fascinating books that talk about the possibility of that Napoleon did make it here and is actually buried there in Louisiana. There's some people that claim that that's very true. What is known is that John Lafitte and his pirates did take off on a long journey, and they came back and buried a couple of bodies there on the levees outside of New Orleans. So who knows? It's one of those big mysteries. But it definitely makes for an interesting story. I'll fill you in with more pirate stuff later, but I think that this is enough to at least get you thinking about the pirates and Texas and its pirates, and to learn more about them. So until next time, this is Jeff Murrah with True Texas History, wishing you vaya con Dios. Until next time, goodbye.